Welcome to the Wholehearted Wellness Podcast. As a friendly reminder, the Wholehearted Wellness Podcast is not a substitute to receiving mental and physical support from a licensed wellness provider. We encourage you to speak with your wellness provider prior to trying any therapeutic modalities mentioned on this podcast. Welcome back, everyone, to the Wholehearted Wellness Podcast. Today, I have a dear old friend of mine. She's not old. We just go way back. It was so funny earlier. I said, back when we were in high school. And she's like, no, back when you were in high school is when we connected. So welcome, Melissa. Today I have Melissa Bowen. She is a licensed professional counselor. So thank you so much for being here today.
Ariel, thanks for having me.
So Melissa has got a couple of really cool areas of focus. She's really huge in helping people bloom into their authentic, true self. And one specific area she's passionate about is those going through a midlife crisis, which I can imagine is maybe when people are really learning to bloom into their authentic self. Mm-hmm. So tell us, what would you say the midlife crisis is?
Well, first, thanks for having me. It's great to be with you, in this professional season. What's interesting about now that I've identified midlife crisis, most people don't identify with that term until long after you've had it.
Makes sense.
Because even when I had mine a handful of years ago, we all think I'm too young for that. That's a cliche. It's for older people, men who have affairs and buy convertibles. But what we search for before that, we probably find ourselves either lost, depressed, anxious, stuck, bored, lost a sense of self, loss of passion, and we think there's something wrong with our life, and we think we have to change everything. It becomes a crisis, and I believe from my experience and research is because we don't allow ourselves to keep evolving. Mm-hmm. We are evolutionary beings, but when we get to certain plateaus of, okay, I've got the spouse, the kids, the job, then I'm happy, I've made it, I'm done. And then we reach a cap of some kind and we think this is it. And so why do I feel some discontent? Because I have it all, air quotes. And I think because we don't allow ourselves to continue to evolve. How do I want to show up in all of these areas new and differently now? So that's where I believe the crisis comes, because we don't allow it. And I also believe that's where the crisis can be a turning point, to use the same word, a crisis, a turning point. And when we embrace that, there's no shame in change. Then it becomes a reconstruction, a re-evolution, and continuing to grow in that stage. So I don't think people identify midlife crisis until you're on the other end of it and you go, oh, there that was. Mm-hmm.
When you were talking, all I could think about was the phrase, so now what?
That's like, when I see
so
people,
now what?
That's kind of what they come to. It's like, my life is great, but now what? Mm-hmm. And why do I find myself discontent with this beautiful thing that I've created?
Okay, that's your next book title.
So now what?
Now what? Question mark. Mm-hmm. Okay, this is it.
Yeah, now what?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just leaning into the beautiful life you've hustled to create and enjoying it and appreciating it. And sometimes it means you're a creative being, and so your creative juices and energy may be calling you to another phase and stage of life.
I love that you talked about we're constantly evolving. Mm-hmm. We're constantly blooming and growing and changing. And it makes me think about the developmental stages that we learned in grad school. Mm-hmm. A lot of them focus a lot on the younger ages, which understandable. There's a lot of change happening, but there's not much.
Stop.
Correct. There's not much talk about when you get a little bit older. It's like, okay, adult. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but adult is so much more. I mean, even from 20 to 25, very different person, Mm-hmm. So I can imagine that only continues the more that you blossom and grow.
And so now, I'm about to turn 55. And there's so much that changes from 35 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to next. And continues. I have sisters that are older than me, and I'm watching their life continue to evolve. Why do we have to think that it ever stops? And so I think when we embrace that, then we're not so resistant to any change that either happens to us or that we may be drawn to. You just learn to honor that and figure out, what do I want now? And it may be a conversation with a spouse. It may be going into new hobbies, just like we did as kids, exploring and allowing ourselves to explore. That is within us.
Yeah. This is not how I thought I would go with the podcast, but a thought just popped in my mind.
Okay.
I can imagine this ties in with our culture sphere of aging.
Yes. I experience it getting older, and I see it as I am older, and I see the other older generations for sure. We don't appreciate aging.
Yeah.
We don't honor it. We judge ourselves in comparison to our younger selves and other younger people, or people who are older who are doing it better. And I think we miss the stage, any stage that we're in, because we're looking at other stages in comparison. But if I were to look at myself at this age and stage as I am now, yes, any age and stage has its challenges. But as I look at just this one, it's beautiful and precious as it is. And then I can learn, what do I need in this age and stage? But truly, ageism is definitely a thing.
Yeah.
But it's good for the individual to embrace whatever age and stage you're in.
Sure. I'm young. I just turned 30. And even just in turning 30, I've gained 15 pounds in this past year. And I was like, oh my gosh, what the heck just happened here? And I think you saw my Facebook post.
Wait.
I was like, oh, well, here we are getting a new closet, and I'll tell you a secret. So I have this image of myself, and I'm so excited to be 70. And I just envision myself as Moana's grandma.
Nice.
With her big old stingray.
Moo-moo
Yes. And she's sassy. She's known as the village crazy woman. And I'm just sitting on my rocker, so content. But you know what's so interesting is I envision myself with my rolls and my saggy skin and my saggy arms. And I just see myself as precious and beautiful. But the irony in turning 30 and gaining 15 pounds, I couldn't accept that. And I thought, well, sister friend, what are you seeing yourself in the future? Are you okay if that's where you become? And it's a new becoming.
No, with every grays, your listeners can't see my grays that I've learned to embrace, and rolls and wrinkles. And it doesn't mean that all of us just get, fat and gray and whatever.
Sure.
But the body changes, and your creativity changes, your mind, your interests, your abilities, everything changes. And so if we can stop resisting that, then we can learn to appreciate it in every age and stage. It's not easy, all of the changes.
Sure.
But my role model, yours may be Moana's grandmother. Mine is a gal named Iris Apple.
Oh.
Yeah. Instagram,
I gotta
Google
look her
that
up.
woman.
Okay,
Oh my gosh,
okay.
yeah. She is like big glasses, everything
Wait,
colorful,
yes.
the white hair.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
I know who you're talking about.
I am not going to care one bit about what I look like, what I say, what I do.
I know what you're talking about.
I'm on
and
my way.
She is something else.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it.
And so there's in the turning 30, in the turning 40, in the turning 50, there's something with every stage where you become more bona fide. I'm taking less crap. I don't need to answer all your questions about me. There's just everything has its pluses and minuses.
Sure.
There's some beautiful pluses coming.
Yes. Well, and it was so funny in my last podcast, I was talking with Haley how in every loss there's a gift. And in every gift there's a loss. And I hear that's what you're saying.
And I'm trying to teach people to embrace the gift of aging.
My good friend, she's getting her grays, and she says, my crown is coming in, Ariel.
I call it sparkle.
She's like, it's coming in. I like that, my sparkle. She's like, my crown is coming in. I was like, I love that. I love that, rather than fearing it. And, and I think that I can imagine that can be a part of moving into whatever it is, middle age, older age, right? Yeah.
But and even, since we started talking about midlife crisis,
Right.
so, people can have it at 30, 35. It's not an age thing. It's, have I been at a stage so long where I'm ready to change. I'm ready to evolve, or I feel a draw to other creativity or recreation. So it's not an age thing. Yeah.
I love that you said that we don't have to define it by an age. It's just whenever you are evolving from a season that you've been at for a while. And I can imagine alongside maybe feeling torn, where do I go next? Maybe even fear of the change or, man, I'm noticing this is coming. I'm moving to a place that is more authentic to me. Going back to your her counseling
authentic
center.
to you at any time. Yes.
And what happens to my community? Will I lose, because I think some people can fear as I'm moving into a new or more authentic part of me, I may lose my community, or my community may change.
Yeah. And so it may not feel like a loss. It would feel like a change to you.
Sure.
Because, again, if it's an authentic change to you, then there may be some grieving of that season, which we honor that, and then keep moving forward. Otherwise, if we say, well, I fear losing my community, or I fear losing something, then let me stay here.
Then they are losing themselves.
You're losing yourself.
So you're losing something?
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
But so, and it's not even a new authentic, it's just to remain authentic in wherever you are in that moment, whether you're exploring new religion, new spirituality, new professional. I mean, I went back to school when I was 39. It's a second career for me. So I was in restauranting for 20 years. So we never stop evolving. Just don't resist that. There's no shame in change.
Going back to when you said it's not necessarily limited to a certain age. I went to college for opera, and I got into a big world-renowned music conservatory, and that was tunnel vision since I was 10 with music. And so going there, and in my third semester realizing I don't want this, and then realizing, hey, I want to go in the mental health profession. Even though I was so excited to be in the mental health profession, I still grieved for a good couple of years because I didn't realize how much of my identity I had put in being a performer. Or even just like, wow, I'm not with my musicians as much anymore. I'm not in this type of, lifestyle.
Community.
Yep, community. And when I mean lifestyle, I mean being like staying up till 11 p.m. rehearsing, it just...
Will people be disappointed in me if I change? Course? So in a manner of speaking, you could have been 20 or 25. You still had that, what I would describe as a midlife crisis.
Yes, exactly. And that's exactly what happened. Because there were people, there were professors that had, and understandably, had just built into me that they had a loss as well when they realized... What the heck is she doing? But they didn't realize, no, this is actually a good thing. This is beautiful.
But imagine if you had stayed in that because of their expectations, for fear of not wanting to disappoint or rattle the boat, then you would have ended up in some sort of depression, anxiety, loss, all the things that become crisis.
So I can imagine when you are working with someone in a midlife crisis, it's almost giving them space to dream.
And examine what the obstacle is. And that's where the counseling clinical piece can come in.
Yes.
What is keeping them from allowing themselves to dream, permission to explore? It could be trauma, past relationships. And I say it's kind of like the 5 felonies, which are obstacles, and that's shame, guilt, fear, obligation, and conditioning. So I fear someone's going to be disappointed or not love me. I feel guilty or like I'm doing something wrong. Shame, I am a bad person. It makes me a bad person. Obligation, well, they did something good for me, so I should stay here. Like your professors, they've done wonderful things, so I should stay in the profession. Or conditioning. This is what
I've always done.
Yeah, yep. Or this is what my mama told me to do, so I was raised this way, and so I need to stay this way. So that's where counseling can come in. What is keeping me from giving permission to dream and moving forward in my own life?
Yeah. Wow. And I think, and you do a little bit more than just counseling. I think you do some workshops or...
Yeah, as part of my professional evolution, I have... I've learned the enjoyment of teaching, a different energy,
It is. It's very energizing.
Yeah, so I do workshops. I'm trained with the Brene Brown programming of Daring Way, and so I love workshops. I do some coaching for some organizations, and so it's just different energy. I may go into teaching as my next evolution.
I love it.
But part of it is also creating the agency, the Authenticity Center. I now have 2 folks working with me, align values and that kind of thing, and so it's developing them in the profession and offering counseling services to the community through them, just like what you're doing. So, yeah.
And she does musical theater, you guys. Isn't this just a cool chick?
And we got that in common, music.
Yes, we do.
Sorry, noises.
We just high-fived over here, and we're not allowed to do that. Oh man, yes. No, it's a really really cool thing being able to just explore new things. I'm there with you with starting Lotus and wanting
Even
to
starting a podcast.
starting a podcast. I know.
It doesn't just have to be a mental health agency. It's
No.
like what is creative and stirring in you that wants to come out. So give yourself freedom and permission to explore that.
Even exploring things that once gave you joy and you had a hiatus from. Something I'm like, you know what? I want to get back into piano. And so
Yes.
my little engineer husband, instead of hiring someone to tune our piano, he said, I'm going to learn how to do it.
There you
And
go.
that was my birthday present.
Goodness.
So
That's wonderful.
yeah, that's wonderful. And even just thinking about what's true to you, what's life-giving, what's freeing.
And
Yeah.
as kids, you said you used to do piano. As kids, we allow ourselves permission to explore all kinds of things. Yeah, try piano, guitar, singing, Barbies, sports, whatever you want. And then find your thing and go do it. But as adults, we don't give ourselves that permission to go explore. We think you should just know your stuff and that's it.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend people explore, try it out, and if you don't like it, great. Something you know that you don't want to do. I don't want to do mosaic ceramics. Tried it, don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So go try something else until you find something you're passionate about. I think my next thing might be ballroom dancing. We'll see.
Okay, I love it.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite questions I'll ask my college students when they're so overwhelmed of, I don't know what I want to do. I'm like, what do you know you don't want to do? And they're like, oh, that's easy. I don't want to do blank. I'm like, perfect. That's something you know. And they're like, yeah, you're right. You're right. I don't want to do that.
It's information. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, to not fear exploring, trying something new, continuing to evolve and bloom. Yeah,
Because there's no shame in that. You're not a bad person or doing anything wrong to keep evolving.
exactly. Well, thank you so much for coming today, Melissa.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yes, and if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to contact you?
I would say go to the website, theauthenticitycenter.com. That has my email, our phone number, even a contact form there that you can just get in touch. So theauthenticitycenter.com.
Perfect. Sounds good.
All right, ma'am.
All right, you guys. Thank y'all so much for listening in, and we'll talk to y'all later.